We got through it. It took us 45 minutes. Is that bad?
Good.
That was really awesome.
Well, thank you.
I applaud you on saying the things that I want to say, but I'm like, I didn't want to offend you if I said, yeah, because democracy is long dead. But if we even ever had it,
my volunteer work is every morning I get up and I read the news listservs on the whole democracy movement.
Yeah.
And then I post key articles on the Coalition for Open Democracy Facebook page. That's how I wake. I mean, if I wake up at 2 a.m., I wake up at 3 a.m., whenever I wake up, that's what I get. I get on my computer and I do that. And so I'm like totally steeped in that. And I don't know if you know who Granny D is.
Yeah.
Well, I was arrested with her in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda.
Oh my God! All right, wait a minute.
In 2000.
Oh God.
And right after she walked across the U.S., and then when Mike got this job.
Are we still recording?
Yep.
Oh, when Mike got this job in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
In 2008, I was like, wow, Granny D lives in New Hampshire.
Right.
So, of course, the first thing I did was connect with the Coalition for Open Democracy, and I volunteered and then became a consultant for them until we moved to Maine. So I've been very heavily involved in the democracy building movement, and was a field organizer and a canvasser for Question 1 for clean elections in Maine 2 elections ago, and then last election I was the Mid-Coast field organizer for ranked choice voting, and we won both of those, which is fabulous.
Yes.
So
good work.
We're fighting, I guess, in the courts, I suppose, on ranked choice voting, but and fighting for money with the legislature on clean elections. But those are definitely, issues that people need to focus in on, because those are key to our rights.
And we could revive what is, this democracy, I think, could be brought back. Or it could be it could just be once firstborn. I don't think it ever really was quite there, but we are in a after recording discussion with Ginny Schneider from the War Tax Resistance Resource Center, and we have audience members that might want to. We're not going to put them on camera, but they may want to make some points on their own or ask questions, and they should feel encouraged. Otherwise, I'm going to say that our good friend Jackie, who does, she got me to record this wonderful couple from North Carolina that did is a two-person show, a musical show of Granny D's efforts, and I can't remember their name right now offhand. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I've met both of them. Actually, I was at their performance in Keene, New Hampshire, when they first came up.
We recorded them right here.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and it's on the long list of videos. Cindy, didn't we do a Granny D? Did you ever get the Granny D?
Yes,
we play that. Yeah, so we play that on local access here.
Oh, great.
It's a wonderful story, her story, and then they're such a nice couple.
Well, Granny D came to every meeting of the organization until 3 weeks before she died at the age of 100. Yeah. That is how dedicated she was. One year she called. New Hampshire has the largest number of legislators. They have 424 legislators.
Hair on the end, hair standing on the end, sorry. 100 years old.
She called every single one of them on campaign finance reform. I mean, she's just totally there for it.
Yeah. I wish I'd known. Wish I'd known about her when she was alive. It would have been. I just wasn't there. My head wasn't there yet. So what else are you gonna pull out, like we were gonna like turn the cameras off, and then she mentioned her work with Granny D, and it's so great to have you here and talking with us, because it's so important what we have going on. And I have to say that some of the things, like I will soften some of the things that I say here, knowing that my mom will watch this recording, and my mom is on the other side of the pendulum, the 180 on the other side of where I'm at. And I love her very much, and we try to keep that outside of our relationship. But when you said what you said about democracy, I didn't want her to hear me say it.
Oh.
You know? But look, Mom, this is not a commie holding a gun. This is, a wonderful woman that just wants the best for us and our children, and it's it's amazing to me that what you would, when I was brought up, all the things about that they warned me about, and the Soviet Union and all the it just bugs me that we have this sort of weird indoctrination when we're kids. And so a war tax resistor, if I'd heard about it when I was a little kid, I would think, oh my God, this person must wear a trench coat and be, and do all kinds of illegal things, and probably a heroin addict. Whatever. Like you have to find a way to demonize people that aren't going with the grain of our society, which is based on capitalism and competition and a war machine, basically, from the beginning.
Well, I was trying to trace back why I focused on peace building and war tax resistance in my life. And my childhood was obviously very different from your childhood.
Right.
At age 11, my family was tear gassed out of our house by the National Guard. And I think that affected me. And we actually saw...
Under what circumstances?
Well, the college in our town, the students had occupied the University Hall to protest the Vietnam War and to advocate for an African American Studies department. And the president called the National Guard in, and we happened to live on the road where the National Guard came through. And they basically, if you've seen those films about Nazi Germany,
yeah, right.
That is what it looked like. There was National Guard all across this wide road that we lived on with riot shields, and they just marched through. And my father was a minister at the university, and they chose to shelter students in the church. So he was there, and then the whole area became kind of inflamed. All the garbage cans were on fire. It looked like something from Apocalypse Now.
Wow.
And I think he started worrying about us at home. So he was chased by the National Guard all the way home, and then they got us into a car. My parents got us.
Probably like a curfew or something, and they were like, for whatever reason, they decided he needed
They were
to be chased.
attacking. We could hear
Wow.
the natural. I keep saying Natural Guard. Sorry,
National
the
Guard.
National Guard hitting people's heads with the batons. We could hear the cracking of the skulls. And anyway, so my parents got us into our car down behind the front seats, and they drove us out. And for 2 days, we weren't allowed back in to our neighborhood because the whole National Guard had cordoned off that area.
Where was this?
This was in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Cambridge, Mass.
Yeah.
I don't remember reading about that in my history book.
Yeah, well, I guess they edited it out.
Yeah, I guess
But
so.
yes, it happened
are
all
you
across the
saying
United
that-
States. I mean,
right,
Kent
but-
State was
right,
another
right.
example where somebody was shot, but that was my personal experience.
Right.
And looking back, I think that I realized this is what your military can do to you.
Right.
And we want to contain that behavior.
It's a
and
little
have a
chemical
peaceful
warfare.
society.
Come
Yeah.
on, Jenny. It's just chemical
Right.
warfare, and it's a bump on the head because you're
Yeah.
not thinking right.
Yeah.
I am at a loss at wanting to be proud of this country all of my life. Because when I was a kid, we were sort of, they taught you to be proud of your country. And we had the 1776, the bicentennial. I grew up in this time, you were taught to be extremely, patriotic. And I remember being that way, feeling that way, loving my country. And after, you get past high school and you begin to see things and be able to think for yourself, and which is critical thinking, which is biologically it takes time for people to do their own critical thinking. It takes time. Oh, do I have an audience member with a dog that wants to ask a question?
Yes, if I can.
Thank you.
I was just wondering if you think that, well, one, I was wondering if you have any idea of the demographics of war resistors currently, and whether a lot of them have personal experiences like yourself, or and how to engage people who maybe don't have that direct connection, haven't experienced something quite so traumatic, but also how things have changed over time with technology and TurboTax, and just people electronically filing taxes and not even thinking about it because everything's filled out for them, and we've become such a technology based society. So those are my two questions. How you think things have changed over time, and what war tax resistors look like and how that can spread.
So I'll take the second question first. And we used to demonstrate outside post offices, but since people aren't showing up to mail their taxes anymore, really we're focusing on doing public actions elsewhere. For example, we'll be in Monument Square on April 18th all day with our banner and all of our materials. So that's a difference. We're not going to be at the post office. We're just reaching out to the public. And we're at places like the Resistance event in Augusta. In terms of our demographics, I would say that primarily the people who are involved, who I have met who are involved in open war tax resistance, are people who are generally white, and there's like a range from 30 up in terms of age, both genders, and as far as I know, many different sexual preferences of people who are involved. We are definitely, and that our organizer at the national level is completely focusing on connecting with movements of people of color, and that's his main focus, actually. So we're really trying to reach out to people of color. It is harder if people of color are illegal war tax resistors, because many times they're targeted more than other people. With Black Lives Matter, I think people of color are basically willing, or more willing now, to expose themselves to the system in terms of practicing civil disobedience.
Right.
But there's a huge amount of support that I think is needed. Again, I can refer to my partner.
That'll go from 2 war tax resistant resistor arrests to 1,000 as soon as black people start doing that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
like, we would have to find a way to, as you know, to block that from happening. For
yeah,
sure,
and
so.
I'll give an example. For example, my partner appears to be Apache, and the IRS went after him. He was not a war tax resistor, but he was making a lot of money for a person of color, and they didn't believe he was paying all of his taxes. He was basically targeted as a person of color making money.
Right.
Well, it turned out he was audited, and they actually owed him money. But he was targeted, and he's not even a war tax resistor. Right. So you can imagine what might occur if he became a war tax resistor. Now, after that experience, he decided that he was not going to make over taxable income. And he didn't do it, he didn't know about war tax resistance, but he decided, this is ridiculous. I'm hassled by these people.
Yeah.
I'm changing my entire lifestyle to get out of this tax system because I'm hassled even when I'm, legal. So that's sort of a real example of somebody of color and what's happened to him in terms of the tax system.
Yeah. We would have to be, as a community of tax resistors, we would have to be pretty vigilant about who gets, who the government comes down on.
Yeah, and there are resources, there are funds, some of these alternative funds, and then there's a special fund that if a war tax resistor is in trouble, they will go out and appeal to the whole community of war tax resistors and people who've said that they would pay into this fund. So it's not like you're out there on your own. Right. And I really counsel people, if you do want to do war tax resistance, please tap into the community because that's the only way we're able to do it. And I'm able to...
Crowdfunding. Maybe crowdfunding could help.
Yeah, basically, that's what they do.
Right.
Yeah. I couldn't do war tax resistance without the support of many non-war tax resistors. There are so many people out there who have helped me in so many ways to enable my war tax resistance. And we're talking people who work for Fortune 500 companies who have helped me. So in supportive ways, people who you would never expect to come and help and be supportive of war tax resistance. So they might be working for the other side, but their true beliefs are with us. So it's quite an interesting situation that you discover when you're a war tax resistor.
So what other ways, if somebody is not yet ready to be a war tax resistor, I don't know, I guess there's a lot of ways to be supportive, and you guys went over a bunch of them.
Well, for these April actions, for example, there are people who are not war tax resistors who are out at those tables teaching people about war tax resistance, right, because they may have been war tax resistors at one point, but yeah, every year your finances change or your situation changes. They may, let's say they have an aging parent and they're afraid that if something happens, they won't be there for that aging parent, but they've been a war tax resistor for decades, or whatever it is, they're still out there telling people about war tax resistance. Yeah. And then the other way is to support the Maine War Tax Resistance Resource Center, because we are a shoestring operation. So any kind of contribution helps with all the organizing that we do.
Was there one more question?
Yes, I do have a question. It's concerning the demographic again of who, that wide range of people who are resisting war tax, supporting the military industrial congressional war machine that's based on profit. So it's to connect those dots between not supporting war in this realm, don't want to support the profit of war, if we can frame it like that. But over here, investing in the stock market, consumerism, these other things that are related, because it's really part of the same system. So it's like it's part of that educational piece that in which we were talking a little bit about divestment. I guess it goes back to that. So the question would be how to help people connect those dots. Because a part of me, I have no idea. We do actions like around the Dakota Access Pipeline to shut that down on the one hand, and do actions at banks, but on the other hand, we bank with these, and we have money markets, and we have retirement accounts that are all connected to this profit-driven system of exploitation, really. So it's a broader question, but and we want to end war, but so the question is, do you think we can end this idea of war for resources, for profit, for exploitation, for control of resources without changing our economic system of capitalism?
I think we have to change the economic system. When you asked the question, I immediately thought about Bush saying, well, we've got to defend our lifestyle, or whatever that quote was. And that one thing about war tax resistance is you really do think about your lifestyle and how you're contributing to the war machine in every way. So, for example, there are community loan funds where you can put your money if you're, whether or not you're a war tax resistor, that is investing in those constructive activities. So you could think about, okay, since my vote doesn't count anymore because it's rigged, not for the reasons that we've heard from recently, but it's rigged by the parties, basically. Your dollars do matter, and so think about where every dollar you spend goes. And you could start out with credit unions, move your money out of the banks into credit unions or community loan funds. That will make a massive impact, and you can see it in Maine in some ways. If you all might not notice it, but when you come from another state that has no credit unions and you come to Maine and you see credit unions more credit unions than pizza parlors, it's like, wow, people really care about what their money is doing in Maine, and I think more of that. And that's essentially a form of divestment from those investments. In terms of the stock market, certainly I would counsel people to stay out of it and divest. And invest in activities that are going to create the world that we envision, which is a peaceful world.
Right. That's good. I like the divestment from these colleges, divesting from fossil fuels, because I didn't even know the colleges invested, made investments to help it makes sense, their business. But so definitely divest, definitely credit unions. You just, supported my theory that in Maine, and I think New England in general, that this is a different country than the one that I go to visit every Christmas, which is down in Virginia and North Carolina and South Carolina, and even the Midwest. It's a different, when you get south or west of Boston, or once you get to Boston, basically, that becomes America to me. Once you get up north, you're right, credit unions. There's a lot of different reasons why, but and a lot of it is attitude. Yes, Kara?
Well, I don't know how much more time you want to talk
I don't know.
for, too.
Yeah,
I know you weren't feeling very well.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I've done work against the 2012 provisions of the NDAA, which the National Defense Authorization Act, which is many people don't know is the military budget for the year and is normally signed into effect on either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, when everyone is kind of distracted. And I just was thinking about the connections between the provisions that go into that. For example, the biggest one being the chilling effect from the 2012, well, it was signed in 2012 for the NDAA, which was indefinite detention if you're a suspected terrorist. And terrorist, if there's no specific terminology to decide who may be a terrorist or et cetera. So I just wondered if there was any thoughts from you specifically, or like just bringing that to light essentially, and taking even a closer look at not only what the military is doing in other countries, but like you were talking about with your story, and what we're starting to see more starkly here in our country. It seems like every week, every day, the magnitude grows. So just kind of bringing light to that.
Yeah, I think that the militarization of the police and the privatization of the prison system and certainly indefinite detention all really are geared toward a violent society. And war tax resistors certainly do work to change those situations. And war tax resistors, many of them have done nonviolent civil disobedience where they've actually been arrested, but not for war tax resistance. Right. And so they have a vested interest in ensuring they're not indefinitely detained. So the prison system, particularly from my standpoint, if I had another issue that I could work on, that would be it, and indefinite detention and many other aspects of the prison system. And prison industry, it's become a prison industrial complex, would be on my radar screen. And I'm always excited when somebody says, oh, I have some time and I want to work on something. And then I can just like channel all that information to them so they could start working on it.
Nice. We have to go. I'm so sorry. To be so abrupt.
That's okay.
Yeah. So general strike, I'm going to call it right here, May 1st. If I don't say it, someone else will. So trust me, there's going to be a May 1st general strike, divest from fossil fuel, get out of corporate banks.
Why don't you organize it nationally?
Yeah, right.
Why May 1st?
Right.
It's May 1st.
Right.
Because it's May Day.
1st is, it's May Day, and Kara can help me on ways for a general strike. So you stay out of work, you shut down the machine. Stop paying taxes, stop paying mortgages, stop paying student loans, stop paying credit card bills. Buy only essential items. Do not drive if you don't need to. There's more out there. There's more ways to slow down this machine until they listen, because I think that the majority of this country does not like the way it's going, or has liked the way it's been going for some time. We got to run though. Resist. And have a great night. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great stuff. 1 minute left on the card. Nice. Hit stop.
These memories undoubtedly will fade away and be replaced. But I'm carrying with me everything I've learned from you. Grew and grew. As long as I'm alive, I won't regret a single moment.